It is my pleasure to spend the next little bit with you. I promise you this, we'll get out of here on time, and a little bit early. But we are going to spend some time together talking about Tan's business, talking about your business. And as all of you know, when I'm involved, we're going to have Q&A. And Curtis, we're also going to probably tell a story or two, okay? So we're in for a little bit of a roller coaster ride. I hope you'll strap in with me and we'll have a little fun. And we'll get out of here on time for lunch and all of your activities and get you to the beach on time when the sun's at its highest and the humidity gets above 90% for you, because I know you can't wait for that. As we get started, though, what do you think about this Tan Speaks? Wasn't that great? How about another big round of applause for all of the people? They put a lot of hard work into that and sharing ideas. And after all, isn't that really what conference is all about? I mean, it's a great opportunity to come together and really recognize you and celebrate your success. Take a much-needed breather, right, away from the business, disconnect a little bit and recharge, but also sharing ideas. You know, the best ideas you get at a conference like this, Emmy, are the ones that you get by the pool, on an excursion, or from a group like this that just presented. I really want to encourage you to look these people up, share ideas with them, and really be conscious of your environment. You're in a room with winners. You're in a room filled with leaders who know and understand their business and how to be successful. Everybody in this room has an idea that can change somebody's business. Don't leave here, Drew, without that casual conversation that gives you that idea that you can bring away. As I open up, I want to share a quote with you. Success is not a product of circumstances, but how you respond to them. This is a quote, Jeff, that I heard years ago, and it sort of stuck with me. And certainly our circumstances do impact our success. Many times we find ourselves in circumstances where we just feel advantaged, right? I kid all the time about leading a charmed life. But sometimes your circumstances really automatically lean towards success, whether it's the people you know or you're just lucky enough to meet that person, that new client that's going to help change your business. But most of the time when we look at circumstances, we talk about how they potentially undermine our success, don't we? We have a tendency sometimes, even as leaders, to get a little woe is me because of circumstances that we face. But see, here's what I know. This quote pertains to everybody in this room, because everybody in this room, and I can look around the room, and a few of you, I know some of the challenges that you faced, whether it was a personal health setback, something in your family. Almost everybody in this room, in fact, I would say everybody in this room, faced difficult circumstances somewhere in the course of this last year. Something that the directors in the room know that the agents may not is that about once a month we come together with the field leadership team and we talk about reps who joined our organization as employees and didn't succeed. They exited from the organization early. And we try to learn from that and identify what happened in that, what happened, why did that person not succeed? Sometimes we just made a bad decision. They made a bad decision. They just weren't really a great fit for the business. Sometimes we have to admit to ourselves that we fumbled a little bit. Maybe we weren't quite ready. Maybe they didn't get what they needed from us. But then on the other side of that, there's this large category that is what we call the life happens category. It's where their career, this early new part of their career, intersected with their life in a way that they had health issues, they had family issues, they had something that undermined their success and caused them to fail. See, that's real life. That's what really happens to people. But in this room today, I know every one of you, every one of us, I kid about charmed life a lot for myself, but every one of us face circumstances that could have set us back, could have kept you from being here, could have kept you from having the impact that you have on your clients. You raised above those circumstances. You succeeded for your clients, for yourself. How about a round of applause for everyone in this room for having accomplished rising above difficult circumstances and finding a way to win? Because that's what winners do. Winners win. If you were at the cruise this last year, as we were closing up that conference and getting ready to do the awards presentation, I talked a little bit about our focus on the reps in our organization. That we'd had a lot of success as an organization, and we certainly applaud that, and that success continues today. But that we felt like organizationally that we weren't providing enough to our reps in order to have them better prepared to even take their own practices and even to be more successful. So we vowed as an organization that we were going to invest in the things necessary to help you as a rep move your practice up. This TAN Speaks is a great example of one of those things. Instead of just hearing from us, hearing from people who are doing things differently that you can learn from. But even in the year of the rep, as we focused on that, we faced obstacles, right? We faced circumstances that could have set us back organizationally or could have set you back. And I want to just take a minute and just honestly talk about some of those things that we did face. One of them is the Department of Labor fiduciary rule. We have regulators intervening in our business and trying to tell us, and in fact, telling us how we can interact with a client as it relates to their qualified retirement funds. This is real life. This is something outside of our control, but it certainly creates circumstances that impact our business. This rule's still under evaluation now. We talked with the directors earlier before this meeting started. It's constantly under flex, but it's already impacted your business. It's already impacted all of our business, and it's beyond our control. The new business processing conversion, the MBA processing conversion. This is a platform change inside our new business processing that's designed to, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes, position us better to be able to process faster, but that conversion actually slowed processing down for a while. Product sunsetting, the organization's made a decision to narrow the number of platforms that they manage product on in order to be more fluid and prepared for the future to innovate new products designed for the consumer of today. But along with that, a few products went away. In fact, one that quite a few people in here sell, we could argue that the Flex 7 may not be the most competitive term product for the consumer, but it is one that we sold, and many of you sold in unique circumstances. We made a transition from Creative One, who'd been a great partner of ours in building our annuity business, to Crump. That transition didn't go perfectly. We had some stumbles and struggles along the way. So again, one of those things, one of those set of circumstances that could have impacted our business. We made a decision, and looking at the Year of the Rep initiatives, you had to have the best platform in order to build your business, whether that's technology, training development, products and services. And as we did that and we began building and impacting that platform, made a decision, part of the cost of that would have to be shared. And then one Transamerica initiative. There's a lot going on inside the organization, Jeff, that'll better prepare us for the future and really leverage our position in the organization, because under a One Transamerica world, that we become even more valuable to the organization, because it'll involve sharing platforms, sharing customers, and sharing relationships, but we experience some growing pains along the way. Those are all circumstances that could potentially impact our business. But again, we're in the business, you're in the business, and we're in the business of creating opportunities through that change. And one of those was product initiatives. We launched FFIUL with living benefits. Was that a great initiative for us organizationally? Truly change the value that you can provide to a client inside a product that focuses on saving, investing, protecting, and providing retirement income. Well, guess what? In order to do that, we had to make this MBA conversion. And that changed the whole dialogue around the LB term, right? Because now your living benefits on your term, which is our highest value term product that we sell, can now be brought over to that permanent solution, which is the IUL. Again, these are opportunities that you're taking advantage of, certainly, but opportunities created by some of that change that we talked about. We finally launched Transamerica's fixed indexed annuity. this year. And our partnership with Crump is what allowed us to be able to do that and give you access to a very competitive fixed indexed annuity that is designed for the consumer who's preparing to retire to both take care of that accumulation as well as that retirement income. And there were several. Drew talked about Medicare supplements, and in your state, Drew, you don't even. Transamerica doesn't offer a Medicare supplement, but it's valuable to the client. It's the number one concern that clients have as they prepare for retirement is health care. It's not even outliving their money. It's what about their health care, and being in a position to educate the consumer on that. And in the states where we offer Medicare supplement, we basically now have repositioned that as a core product and giving 100% credit for those sales. The next thing is process enhancements. Point of sale underwriting. This is a game changer for us. Today, when you make a sale with a client, and that involves a living benefit term product for under $250,000, if you're in a state that has this process approved, we have a couple still outstanding. You can actually transmit an electronic app, and that will go into the underwriting system if done properly. And if you do that properly, and you say you want an underwriting decision, the system is designed to come back and give you underwriting direction at point of sale to actually say this product will be approved as applied for, or we need additional underwriting. And if it's approved as applied for, and the customer has agreed to an electronic delivery of the policy, that process can occur with the click of a mouse. The policy can be delivered to the client electronically, and then if the client accepts the policy by going in and doing an acceptance, you know what happens next? What happens next? You get paid. You get paid just like that. Now look, like any other change, it's not perfect. Again, we had to get through this transition on the new business accelerator process we talked about a few minutes ago. But on Thursday of this week, this is the first time this has happened, but on Thursday of this week, we had a client purchase a $100,000 LB term, relatively small case. But that application was transmitted electronically. It was approved by the underwriter. That decision was sent to the rep. The client had agreed to electronic delivery. The policy was emailed to the client, and the client accepted it while the agent was still in the home. What do you think about that? What do you think about that? That's a game changer. That is something that changes this relationship for the client, right? We want to be easy to do business with for the client. And a lot of this change that we're going through, these circumstances that you faced and you overcame them with the changes in the platform, are positioning us to do just that. Now, what does that mean moving forward? What that should mean moving forward is later this year, the FFIUL will be added to this same process. Later this year, how about a round of applause for that? We're looking to raise the non-medical limit on both the term and the IUL to be sure, and there's a lot of work to do, but the thought process is that if we can get that FFIUL to that same 250, right now it's 100,000, if we can get that FFIUL to that same 250, wouldn't it be something that if later this year you could submit an electronic application on a $200,000 IUL, it would go into the underwriting queue, and you get underwriting feedback back on that case. And if it was an acceptance, then that policy could be e-delivered, including all of that noise we have over the illustrations and all of that, and clients ultimately needing to sign, and that client do an acceptance with a click of a mouse and deliver that policy while you're in the home. That's where we're going. This process enhancement, that's what it's all about. Dave Paulson, who's the Chief Distribution Officer of all of Transamerica, Curtis, I cornered him at a recent meeting to let him know that we love this, but we need it to be enhanced. And his comment to us was, I will not rest until we have a working underwriting algorithm that will allow the case to be underwritten multiple tables using the same methodology. and we can get to $1 million, $1.5 million using point of sale underwriting. That's the goal, that's the vision, to totally change that interaction with the client. And so it all becomes about the relationship with you and then simplified processing once the decisions are made. That's where we're going. A lot of these circumstances that we faced are preparing us for that. The next item is new rep onboarding. All the directors in the room are aware that other than in the state of California, we just launched a new method of onboarding new reps using an independent model to onboard them. And again, the objective here is to put ourselves in a position to make sure we bring the right person in to the right role. Not everyone wants to be an employee rep. We have some very successful, I'm looking at Isabel here on the front row, who values the independence of being an independent agent. And there's a lot of opportunity out there for people like Isabel, but it's also a way for us to be sure that we protect the exclusivity of your role as an employee agent, that we don't dilute that by bringing the wrong people in to the role and expending a lot of resources that we never get a return on, and taking that extra time, those extra steps, but at the same time being in a position where we can bring a career changer in, help them fund their transition into the business in a very unique way, that if they're active and engaged with us, they can make that transition at their own pace, as opposed to at this feverish validation pace that we place new reps in if they come directly in as employees. This is a tremendous opportunity, and I'll talk about it in a few minutes. For the reps in the room, for the employee reps in the room, the career reps in the room, there's an opportunity inside that for you as well. Again, these are changes that are being created by circumstances, but we're finding opportunities inside that. The next thing is the platform improvements. I talked a little bit about that, and I'm going to run through each one of these items individually. FSED.net. That was mentioned from some of our TAN Speaks presenters out there earlier. And FSED.net, everyone in the room has access to this. It is current and it is today. While I value our relationship with the American College and always will, I tell people this, I have 2 designations and a master's degree from the American College. But I will say, people want to learn differently today. Many of you in the room want to choose what you want to learn. You want to do that faster. You want it digitally. You want it 24 hours a day. You want to pick your own subjects, be able to gain access immediately, not have to wait for the next class. That's what FSED.net is all about. On the screen, we talk about retirement planning modules, business modules, Social Security modules, estate planning modules. You pick your subject, it's available, it's digital, and you can get access to that right now. You want to add something to your practice that requires knowledge? It's a click of a mouse. Is that great news? The next thing is Salesforce. Now, we're taking baby steps with Salesforce starting out because we've got to be sure that this transition to this way of doing business is done in a way that it doesn't undermine your business during the transition. So initially, we're taking baby steps. Initially, you can create a contact. You capture that contact inside this database, and it stays there forever. We'll be shortly in a position where you can transfer your Facebook database in there. You can transfer outside databases into that to create this inventory of potential clients. You also then can profile that client. After you've met with them, you can record that information on where they are financially, all of those important things to put you in a better position to serve their financial needs. Then now you have an inventory of opportunities for yourself. At a glance, at a click, you can see where am I toward the live working prospects that I have, where are they on that prospecting chain? And then the next thing is, where is each individual person along this transition from being someone I met to someone who chooses to do business with me? Now, these are baby steps. We're just getting started. This platform will be fully integrated with IGO. This platform will be fully integrated with all of our other support mechanisms, both educationally and marketing. This will be the way you do business. By the way, it'll be integrated with FSED, it'll be integrated with IGO, it'll be integrated with all those tools that you use to run your business. Now, I know we run our business a different way from that now, but I want to do a little what if with you. There's a lot of people in the room, like myself, who've been in the business a long time. A lot of people that have been in the business 10 years, 15 years, 20 years or more. A lot of people just getting started. But if you could go back, if we could get in my go back machine, which I have one of those, where we can just get in my machine and we can go back to the very beginning of your career. What if every person you had ever met and talked to about their financial services, their insurance needs, what if every one of them you could have a connection with all the way to today? Everyone who told you yes, everyone who told you no. You had a record on them. You had a record that included where they lived, what their financial needs were, what you had talked to them about. You had an easy method of staying in touch with them with a click of a mouse or just building a platform around that. What if you could go back 10 years, 15 years, 25 years and have all of that information on everyone who ever told you yes and everyone who ever told you no? What would it be worth? Angie, what would it be worth? It'd be worth a lot more than we could write a check for. I'll tell you that, but that's where we're going. That's what this tool is. I really don't have a go-back machine. We can't go back and start that over, but we can do that moving forward. This will change your business forever, and that's what this transition is about. Crump. Curtis had Bev Solari stand up, and we introduced a relationship with Crump that, again, was a little bit disruptive. But what we have today is that we have a product provider, we have a sales support provider, we have, as Drew said, these are people who are experts at turning you into a specialist and giving you the tools, the products, and the services that you need to do that. Through our relationship with Crump, you cannot meet a client that has any life insurance need, any retirement annuity, fixed annuity need, no disability income need, and no long-term care need that you can't fill with a high degree of excellence and an entire sales support team standing by to help you. That's what that transition was all about. It's paying dividends right now today. One more time, a round of applause for Bev Solari and her support of you and our organization. Transamerica Employee Benefits. This is a business you're already in, okay? We're already in the business of selling to people who work for small companies, or selling insurance to people who own small companies. This is a business that we're already in. This is a natural transition. Paul did a great job of talking about how he manages that business and uses core products and a list bill system. Transamerica, our relationship with Transamerica Employee Benefits is a product of One Transamerica initiatives. Because what's happened is they put together an internal sales desk team. Brian Bly's here. Where's Brian? We recognized Brian a little bit earlier. But we have a sales desk team who's 100% dedicated to you. And this is a business that's easy to get in, and you can do it on a group platform, you can do it on a voluntary benefit platform. And I was talking to Brian in the booth, and hopefully you got a chance to get by and see him. But here's an example. Did you realize that, does anybody have any clients who work for a small business that can't buy insurance, got declined? Come on, raise your hands, I can see you, okay? A lot, right? One of the things that you now have at your disposal is that any business with as few as 10 employees, you can actually offer guaranteed insurability group insurance up to $100,000. And under the right circumstances, Brian, that can go as high as $200,000. What a great entree into a small business by simply asking that question. Is there anyone here who's tried to buy insurance that can't have access to it? Maybe looking at your own list of declines. What a great entree. All I'm saying is this is added value. This is a big change for us. We have a dedicated team standing by to help you add this to your business. As Paul said, he'd rather see 50 people at once instead of one person at once. This is fishing with a net, not just a hook. And it's the business, you really are already in this business. Transamerica Financial Advisors. Okay, let's all take a breath. Let's all take a breath, okay? I know when we start talking about registered business and registered products, that we all get a little anxious. And because what does that really mean to us? What does that really mean to me? Let me be really clear with you what that means. What that means is that we have a great partner with TFA. And if you're interested in making that a part of your business, that's available and supported by us. And we want to encourage you to do that because we believe that it brings value to the client. Now, if you're sitting out there and saying, look, I don't really have any interest in that. I'm really happy with what I'm doing. I don't want to go get securities registered. I don't want to take on any new compliance scenario. That's okay too. This is not an organizational initiative that says we have to go this direction or we're going this direction. Just like TEB, just like the relationship with Crump, just like Medicare supplements, all of those things, if they fit inside your practice and they fit inside your goal and vision for your practice, we want to support that. That's what this is all about. Now, I do want to do a little bit of a commercial for this because we know that our clients need these products and services. And they're very valuable to you and your business. Just a quick example, you see 3 different things highlighted here, one being the Transamerica One platform, one being Transamerica Alpha, one being a small business retirement exchange where you can actually, the broker-dealer will help you install 401ks in small businesses and you'll get paid for that. We have a lot of people in the room that have been in the annuity business for a long time, sell $1 million, $2 million or more of annuity business every year. Just to give you an example, if you were to take Save, Invest, Protect, and Retire seriously and add that to what you do with Transamerica Alpha as an example. By the way, it's a goals-based platform. You can put as little as $25 in it, or $50, I think, is the minimum deposit. Am I right on that, Mike? I think I'm right on that. So there's no minimum deposit, and people can use it to save and invest as they prepare for their retirement and set individual goals. If you placed $1 million a year, and by the way, this is self-employment, you own this business, you have an independent relationship with the broker-dealer. Jeff, if you put $1 million a year into a managed money account like one of these tools here, and you did that over 5 years or 6 years, if you did that over a 6-year period of time, you would have generated an ongoing income of over $40,000 every single year. Every single year. When you opened up your store, you would know that residual income, that fee-based income, that income that's totally separate from DOL, totally protected from DOL, and whatever the SEC might do when the DOL steps out of that, that's recurring revenue, and it's a business that you own. Doesn't affect in a negative way your relationship with Transamerica Agency Network in any way. It's your ability to build this part of your business, build residual income that'll last you a lifetime and do a really important value and really important part to the client. It's not for everyone, but for those of you that it is for, we got Mac McBride in the room. Hopefully you got a chance to meet him, and his job is to help you understand if I want to do this, how do I get started? And that's why Matt's here. This is a little bit of I'm going to sort of pause and take a little different approach. This is sort of a heady, weird-looking slide. And I was in a presentation recently, and it made me really think about you guys and think about this meeting, because it really does a great job of describing who you are and what you do, as well as where Transamerica is today. Because I get asked that question a lot. There's a lot of change going on inside Transamerica. What does that really mean? What are they really after? That type of thing. And this, like I say, this is kind of a heady slide, so I'll ask you to be patient with me, and I'll try to walk through it in a way that'll make sense to me, and then hopefully it'll make sense to you also. But this is labeled as a progression of economic value. And when you look at this slide, you see commodities, goods, services, experiences, and then transformation going up the middle. And then on the left side, you see customization, and on this side, you see commoditization. Now again, that's pretty heady, deep stuff, but let me try to sort of explain to you what it's illustrating. What it's illustrating is that in any business where goods are either commodities or products, there are economic pressures going on, Abba, inside that business all the time. You've got a portion of the market or the portion of the providers, the distributors in the market that are pushing for customization. So the goods are being customized to deliver unique services. Those services are being customized and staged to create a customer or a client experience. And then done properly, those experiences then become a guide for helping people change their lives. Okay, that's pretty wild that you look at. Well, a product could change somebody's life, but depending on the business that you're in, that can in fact happen. So all of this is going on. You have multiple distributors that are moving up this customization chain, and then what's happening here at the bottom? Commoditization. What does that mean? Somebody holler something out. Commoditization. What does that mean? Right. It's trying to turn that product or that service into something that competes strictly by price. Strictly by price. Commoditizing that. I want to use retail as an example. So hopefully that'll make sense to us. In the retail business, if you go back, there are certain retailers that are working toward customized solutions, right? There are retailers who want to make the experience, that buying experience, unique. Can anybody think of a retailer that does that? Huh? Can't hear you. Amazon? No, a little less, Curtis. A little less on the customization standpoint. Can you think of, I'll give you an example. If you go back, I'm pretty old, so you go back to when I was a kid, especially in small towns, you go to a department store and it was an experience, right? Everybody knew you. They had a soda fountain. They had a candy counter, right? And it was an experience. It was designed to have you coming back there because of that experience had been customized to meet the need of the individual consumer and had actually migrated beyond just product or service into that experiential relationship, right? Now, but inside all those small towns, what happened a few decades ago? Who came to town? Walmart. Now, in spite of their greeter, the person who comes out and says, "Welcome to Walmart," right? All the retired people who didn't save enough money. In spite of those people, what's Walmart all about? It's all about price, right? It's all about price. You got this customization going on, trying to create this unique experience. Walmart comes in, commoditizes everything, right? Best possible price. Best possible price. Best possible price. And actually, Curtis, you could argue that Amazon is one of those same retailers today that are taking that same approach, right? Now, let me see a show of hands of people that, and it really is bright up here. Does anybody out there shop at Walmart? Come on, raise your hand. You can admit it. You're with friends, okay? We shop at Walmart. First of all, is it a great experience? No, the stores are crowded. There's still somebody there to hand you a basket. But I don't ever say welcome to Walmart anymore. I don't think they're very happy to be there. But you go there because of price. Easier question: anybody buy from Amazon? Yeah, right. Same thing. Great price. Immediate delivery. All of those kind of things. How about our business? Does our business experience these same pressures of commoditization and customization? There's no question about that, right? There's no question about that. Every time you turn on the television, don't you hear, direct term sellers? Don't you hear that noise, right, every time you turn the TV on? Even those of you who have a more traditional business, you sell a lot of small face amount whole life, a lot of final expense. The final expense market's the same way, right? Every time there's people coming at the consumer trying to simply make it easy and cheap to do business, right? Is this us? Is this TAN? Now, where are we? We're up here, right? We're trying to create an experience for the client. We're even trying to, with the whole wealth and health initiative, maybe putting us in a position where we can help change people's lives by the work that we do, the advice that we give. We're on this side of the scale, not on this side of the scale. How about Transamerica as a corporation? Have they been on this side of the scale at all? They really have. They really have. They've actually tried to be the cheapest term company out there in the broker world. They've tried to do that. They sold a lot of business doing it that way. They also have affinity marketing where they white label products, things like that, Fred, and they're acquiring clients in real low margin world with no relationship to the client. It's really been a lot of how Transamerica grew to be as big a behemoth as they are. Part of the One Transamerica initiatives, though, is the organization took a pause and said, who do we want to be? And the decision was made that who the corporation wants to be is that organization that acquires clients and assists them through their lifetime to save, invest, protect, and provide retirement income. Is that a over the phone, over the internet term sale? It isn't, is it? Is that an over the phone Medicare supplement sale out of a call center? It isn't. Is that a final expense policy sold the same way? It isn't. What type of relationship does that seem more like? Doesn't that seem more like the kind of relationship you have with your clients? And this whole move to customization, and it's one of the things, when organizations go through change, it creates noise sometimes. It creates a buzz sometimes. Sometimes that buzz is really positive, and sometimes that buzz has more of a negative lean to it. I want to be sure that everybody understands that where our organization is today, this is where we are. This is where we are. Never more evidenced by the Wealth and Health Initiative, never more evident than the commitment the organization has to Transamerica Agency Network. Is that good news for all of us? How about a round of applause for that? I want to take a quick look at the whole wealth and health. And and look, this is a brand new initiative. Some of you are sitting out there saying, I don't know anything about this. They keep talking about this, and I don't know anything about it. It's sort of frustrating me. Okay? Well, the reality of it is it's brand new. Most of this stuff isn't even out there yet. But here's a couple of examples, and Curtis did a great job of opening up with that. But here's a couple of examples. This particular piece right here, and these pieces are designed to help you change your relationship and change your dialogue with your customer using the whole wealth and health analogy. This one right here says that 44% of people today do not have enough money saved to face a $400 emergency. That's scary, isn't it? Is that real? It is real. That's real. Yet $15,000, that number represents if a person has a health emergency and they're covered by a basic ACA health insurance policy, that's the average out of pocket in the first year of that illness. Is that scary? Does that build a story for wealth and health? Does that build a story for what we do with living benefits, with accumulation products like IUL? It does, doesn't it? Okay? Just one more of these. This $92,000 is the cost. That's the average cost of care of a retiree per year. Per year. $92,000. People don't realize that because they have insurance, right? But this is, you wonder why, Drew, why are people afraid as they approach retirement? That's a reality. They've got to be prepared for that. That's advice they need from you. That is, the health and wealth story. Our challenge, and really a lot of what we're trying to talk about today, is what would happen if you added just one thing to your practice. Now, we had some people up here, some practitioners, 8 of them, that did a really good job of explaining to you some of what they do. And I hope that you're sitting out there thinking, well, what can I add? Like Angie did. Angie went to MDRT. She was blown away by it, but she came back with several ideas, one of which she immediately put into play, which is this electronic business card that's helping you prospect and changing your business already. One of the things you don't know about Angie is that she has a goal every year to increase her business at least 10%. She's well above on track to that and has done it almost, I think, all of those 7 consecutive MDRT years, and you can't do that doing the same thing over and over again. What if you just added FFIUL? What if you've sort of been on the fence and you're trying to get your arms around this save, invest, protect, and retire, and you're not selling IUL now? Maybe that's the area that you need to pause, reevaluate, and really learn, because the average case size is $2,500 with no LTC rider, and like $3,500 with a long-term care rider. That's something that we should be looking to add. Again, when you change that average case size, you really do change the dialogue. You change your business. Maybe it's voluntary benefits. Brian Bly and his team are standing by. Maybe it's disability income or long-term care, and you want to consider that, and you need to add that. And maybe for some of you, it's getting in the retirement planning business. But whatever it is, the challenge that we have for you is, and the thing I want you to evaluate, keep in mind, I'm talking to the best of the best. This is a group of people that are winning, a group of people that are leading our organization. But our commitment to you in the year of the rep was to create platforms that would allow you to take your business and your practice to the next level. I think we've done that. We're continuing to work on it. You never arrive on that journey. But again, this is the whole idea behind the year of the rep. I want to be sure that we all challenge each other. What would happen for your business if you added just one thing? It'll require some knowledge. It'll require some work. Share a couple of quotes with you. Formal education will make you a living. You know, all of us have formal education, high school, college, MBAs, whatever that is. But self-education will make you a fortune. That's what we're talking about when we talk about adding something to your already successful practice. Taking the time, letting us help you dig in and adding something, because that could be the very thing that takes you from Leaders Conference to MDRT, from MDRT to core to the table, from core to the table to top of the table, because it really is about probably as simple as learning and doing one more thing. According to Jim Rome, that self-education is how you make a fortune. And one more quote, not quite as modern as Jim Rome, and I love this one. And this is Winston Churchill, because I know everybody, hopefully you're sitting in the room saying, gosh, I really would like to learn. And for Churchill said, I'm always ready to learn, although I do not always like being taught. Isn't that the way we are? I mean, look, you're successful because you're independent. You're successful because you take charge of your own circumstances. That's all we're saying is challenge yourself. That's why FS Ed is such a great tool. That's why we've created all of these different access points for you to be able to add something to your business, but recognizing that it's going to be you who makes that decision, not us. Is that fair? Is that fair? And finally, how will you respond to your circumstances? Because we all make those choices. Everybody in this room made that choice, how you're going to respond to them. That's why you're here. And as it relates to this challenge that I'm sort of issuing to everyone, I want to be sure that we all leave here looking at your business and thinking about how are you going to respond to these circumstances. Okay. It's been a great morning. And I just want to wrap up, and I want to just share a story with you that I think will help really sum up where we are today and what the message coming out of the conference is. And I want to start out by introducing this couple to you. As you can see, this is a young couple. This is on their wedding day. And I'll just start out by saying this is every customer. We all have customers that look like this. Either they do now or they did. And this particular couple, this is Dell and Joan Blackman. And this is on their wedding day. And they're starting out a life together, very excited, bright future. And they actually started this life out in Flint, Michigan. Their parents had moved there to pursue the automobile business jobs that were there in Michigan, but that wasn't what they had in store for themselves. In fact, Dale was quite an athlete, and he wanted to play professional baseball and had gone all the way to AAA and then got a calling. He got a calling into the ministry and a calling from Joan, so he decided to go home and finish college, get married, and start in the seminary. Now, again, they had dreams and visions of their life, and they got started. They started having children, right? That's what we do when we get married. And when that occurred, an insurance agent came into their life. So they had an insurance agent. That person sat down with them and did some basic planning, did a really good job. They bought a whole life policy, a small whole life policy, and some term insurance to start out with that financial security program. Doesn't that sound an awful lot like any customer? It does, doesn't it? Because that's what we do to help people protect families. And we do that every day, and nobody does that better than Transamerica Agency Network. Fast forward, here's Dell and Joan quite a few years later, and a few extra pounds, as you can see. They've done well, and again, they started this family. And I want to pause a minute and make a confession here that they moved to Mississippi, and they made that decision because the environment where they were living wasn't where they wanted to raise their children. Dale had been teaching school. He'd sort of moved around a little bit in those jobs. He was working part-time in a machine shop that his father owned, and they wanted to get out of this environment where they were, and they made a summer trip down to the state of Mississippi, where Dale's father, who's a master machinist, had moved his business down there and had quite a good business going. And so while they were there, they ran into a business opportunity. Now, Dale had a vision and a dream of being in business for himself, something that he always wanted to do. But that opportunity had not presented itself. Now, he'd had a really good insurance agent, right, who had basically changed their term insurance, changed their whole life to term as they got more and more children because they needed more protection, but never really talked to him much about the accumulation side of what insurance could do. So what they had to do was they had to borrow a huge amount of money to open this business. But they made that decision at a really bad interest rate, Curtis, right? That's what you do when you're trying to start a business and you don't have much money. So that was the decision that they made, was to do this anyway. They borrowed the money, and off to Mississippi they went. Now I have a confession to make. Because, see, by this time, Dale and Joan had 3 daughters and a son. And that one of their daughters was a striking 16-year-old redhead. Striking. And when they moved to Mississippi, shortly after that, about a year later, she met a very handsome, very smart person who happened to be me. And that person is my wife, Ednet. Ednet, wave to everybody. Still the striking redhead that she was 38 years ago now, right? So enough of that. Back to the story, just so you'll know these are real people. So what Dale and Joan did was they borrowed this money and they started this business in partnership with her father, and they moved to Mississippi, and they had a great business plan. Now, The reality of it is, let me pause just a minute and back up, because 16 or 18 years earlier, they bought their first insurance policy. And the reality of it is, they bought a very small whole life and term and ultimately changed that to term. No one talked to them about save, invest. No one talked to them about that part that insurance could do. So let's do a little what if, move it a little more modern day. What if, Drew, their rep had talked to them about FFIUL? What if they had put them in a program where they were saving and investing while providing for that protection? 16, 17 years later, we know if you start in your 20s, 16, 17 years later, it's a lot, right? 30, 40, 50,000 would have made all the difference in this business venture that they went into. Instead, they'd done well, they'd saved money, they didn't have a lot of debt, but it was put money in, take money out, right? Isn't that what most people do with their savings unless they have an organized plan? They didn't have that, so they took this high-risk loan, but they had a great business plan. They moved the machine shop onto this property, and Dale's father, a master machinist, moved his business there and was building that business. And this marina was more like almost like a fishing camp. There were a few docks, some rental boats, and the whole idea, that business, if you know anything about the golf course or the marina business, the business model is that you buy the property, you invest everything you make back into it. Curtis, you and I have had this dialogue. You put that money back into it to enhance the value of the business. You add boat docks for large boats, things like that. And that was their business plan. They had a great business plan. Well, it took a few years to launch that business, as any new business takes time, right? The machine shop business, though, after a few years, is going relatively well. The marina business now is starting to pay for itself, and life happened. Dale's father, who had some age on him, master machinist, became disabled, and he couldn't work anymore. Found it difficult to work. He tried to hang in there. Dale was a pretty good machinist, but not a master machinist. He didn't have the relationships. He couldn't hold on to that part of the business, no matter how hard he and his brother actually worked to try to hold on to that business during this period of time that Dale's father was on disability. Now I know what you're thinking. Where was this insurance agent? Well, believe it or not, they had a pretty good attorney that drew up the sale agreement, Jeff. They had a buy-sell agreement that provided for income for Dale's stepmother in the event that his father became disabled, and a lump sum payment if he were to die. So now guess what the business had to do? Part of the business is declining. The marina now has to pay, because it wasn't funded with insurance, has to pay disability payments to Dale's stepmother. A few years later, Mr. Blackman passed away. And then the bill for the business came due. You know how this story ends, right? You know what happened? What did they have to do? They had to sell the business. They had to sell the business. Now, the good news is they'd been relatively successful. The business had been doing okay. The improvements never occurred, Al, because the business plan broke down because of this disability scenario. But they were able to sell the business. They found a buyer. They Dale and Joan carved out a small portion. That's why they're smiling. They carved out a small portion of land, and they had a home paid for there, and they took about $15,000 or so that they had left, and they set it aside for an emergency. We all know where they put it, right? They put it in a bank account. And then Dale went to work for full-time preaching. A few years later, the kids are grown. They're starting to get out on their own, and that money's growing. They've done relatively well, and Dale approaches retirement, and that money has grown from that $15,000 or so, Jeff, to an amount like $40,000. So it's done really well, right? Well, over that same period of time, if they'd invested that in an ETF, it would have grown to $206,000. That would have made, they never needed the money. They managed to save a little bit more. But in that whole retirement planning scenario, we all know during the accumulation phase, you have to take some risk, right? You have to take, so he didn't have a 401k, he didn't have a retirement plan, he didn't have any of that. But that money was safe, but it just hadn't grown. Now, the reason that I know as much as I do about their financial situation is that just a few years ago now, less than 3 years ago, they asked Ednet and I to come in and help them with the planning on their finances. Now, I had asked 10 times to give them advice and to offer them help, products and services that we sell. But they had an insurance agent. And let me be sure that we all understand. Dell and Joan were amazingly successful. They had a home free and clear debt. They had some money saved. They raised at least one really fabulous child. And so they had a successful life. And if anything had happened, that life insurance agent had them taken care of. If Dale had passed away, the family's lifestyle would have been unaffected because that was taken care of. And we all know that's where the financial plan starts, right? I know all this detail because I began working with them as they prepared to sell that home. By the way, all the equipment from the machine shop was in the sheds in the back, Drew. We had to clean that out, sell it. We had to market the property. It took us about 2 years. In fact, for Ednet, that was almost a full-time job for a couple of years to get all of that done. Well, they sold that house, and they had enough money left that they actually bought a small home in a town close to where they live, but where her Ednet's brother and his family was, and a lot closer to doctors as they're aging. They were out in the country and on this lake. And so they have a nice little home, a little brick home in a nice community. It's paid for. They have a couple of $100,000 in the bank. They raised 4 children. They were amazingly successful. Here's a more current picture, and this is one I can't look at while I talk. They have that little nest egg, and they wanted that nest egg to be used to pass on to their grandchildren and that type of thing. But you see, they didn't have any long-term care insurance. They had no long-term care rider on an IUL. They didn't have any of that. They have a life insurance agent. Had Dale died, everything would be taken care of. But now, as they enter this phase of their life, they have to have help. Even though they tried to prepare Curtis, they moved into this other home. Somebody has to come in, Jeff, you know how this is, and help them with their health care. You know how they're paying for that? Out of that savings, because they don't have long-term care. And the state can't help them because they have too much income and too much assets. Now, that is, I believe, that story is our every client. This is our client. You know who they are. They're people that you currently serve. So I tell that story not to. I actually got through it without getting teared up, Ednet. I did really good. She didn't think I'd make it. I got through it without getting teared up because we've really helped them with their planning, not with their money. They have too much pride for that, but we've helped them with their planning over the last couple of years. And they're in a really good place, but their assets are declining, and they are where they are. They weren't able to accomplish all that they wanted to. The other thing that I want to mention is that marina that they sold, the property that they had set on a hill where their home was set on a hill, and they overlooked that marina. They sold that marina for $260,000, and it just sold for $1,500,000. And that person did the exact business plan that Dale and his father had planned on. So this is a success story, and they had a really good insurance agent. And just as we wrap up and we move into the fun part of your day, and you're thinking about the message that you take home, my question to you is, for your clients, what would happen if you added just one more